So it occurred to me this week that I should share a little bit about a particular aspect of theology that we've been applying for about 8-9 months now, but hasn't been overt. Is about in last January, I asked Hillary to start teaching 5-minute segments every month of theology related to the topic of worship to help us as a body engage. But behind that is a theological stance that I've never overtly said that we have as a church. And that stance is that we as a church would say women can teach. So let me back up a second before everyone gets their guards up or anything. I mean, there may be guards up. Here's why. And I'm totally open to conversation on this with people. In fact, some people talk to me about it. This has been an issue in every church we've planted that has come up at different points. So the major passages are 1 Timothy 2, 1 Corinthians 11, 1 Corinthians 14. And so those are the major passages dealing with why women should or should not teach in a church. Now, here's the way that I interpret those passages, is that each of those, one, the setting is Corinth. So all you guys know what was going on in Corinth and amongst the men and women in the church. Like the men were advocating their roles and they're going and having sex with prostitutes, right? And they were not being godly men and husbands in the home. And then the women were subverting the authority of their husbands within the church, even at points making public light of the husbands within the church. And then in Timothy is set in Ephesus. And so in the Ephesian church, we haven't talked a lot about the background of Ephesus. But a similar thing was happening in the church in Ephesus, in which men were advocating the role, and then women, again, within the church, were really demeaning men within the church, taking over the man's role within the church, and taking even within the marriage, and women were making light of their husbands. And so in light of that, I interpreted those passages in light of that kind of setting. And so Paul, because of what was going on in those churches, gives particular guidelines to help women see, hey, women, you should not be trying to subvert the authority of your husbands within the church. If you look at 1 Timothy in particular, which is the most debated, and actually one of the most difficult to translate verses in the New Testament, especially the last phrase on women will be saved by childbirth and be having birth to kids. I'm not going to talk about that today. However, what I am going to talk about is that it's obvious in that passage that it is talking about husbands and wives within the church. It's not talking about generally men to generally women within the church. It is a husband to a wife. It even uses the illustration of Adam and Eve and talks about giving birth to children, which hopefully would happen within a marriage, I'd hope, in a godly kind of setting. And so in that passage in particular, which is the one, really the verse that is debated, because if you look at 1 Corinthians 11, you have women prophesying and praying within the church and speaking out. In 1 Corinthians 14, you have women prophesying again within the church as well. And so those two are not really debated. It's 1 Timothy 2 that is the debated verse when it says a woman should not teach or have authority over a man. And so what I'm saying is that was a particular situation of women that were abdicating their role as wives who were abdicating their roles as women and were subversively taking on the role of a husband within the church, even demeaning their husbands within the church. And so Paul writes and says, hey, don't do that. Don't be subversive to the authority God's placed in your life. Instead, you should live under authority of your husbands and within the church. And so that's why I do not apply that universally to every situation. I would apply that to marriages within the church. That women, yes, you should submit to your husbands, and your role within the marriage should not be, I'm going to domineer and teach my husband all this stuff all the time. Not that women cannot teach their husbands, they can. Like I learned from any guy who ever says, I don't learn from my husband, my wife, is lying. Like straight up, they're lying. And even if Like, we actually encourage men to learn from their wives in the church. We should, because women actually have the Holy Spirit, and they can teach their husbands things through engaging the Word. Like, I asked my wife, like, it should be a question husbands ask their wives sometimes. What is God teaching you in the Word? How is God growing you in the Word? And you know what? Sometimes I learn from that, and I grow. And so it's not universally saying even women should not teach. It's like, when the body gathers, women, wives are not to look at men and go, men, I'm going to beat you down, and I'm not going to be the authority in the church that does everything. And so what we're doing as a church, we're saying, women, we're also saying another thing that a lot of churches say, is that only elders can teach within a church. We don't say that. We would say teaching is not an office. Teaching is a gift. And there's a difference between an office and a gift. Elders should teach, but that doesn't mean women should not teach under the authority of the elders. And actually that also means men, although this isn't directly, men should also teach under the authority of the elders too, like as well. Which is why before anyone teaches as a part of Grassroots, I meet with them to go over the theology, and then afterwards I actually critique them as well. So, and say, you know, here's what I think is right, here's what's wrong, or what is right. Actually, no one's really taught stuff that isn't right yet, so that would be good. But I probably have taught things that might not be right from time to time. And I might do it again, but I don't mean to. But there might be times where I say something that's not right. So I'm hoping that brings a little bit of clarity to why today Hillary is teaching the Bible on Sunday. She is a woman that I see is living under the authority of her husband, and is that my phone? That sounds just like my phone. That's my alarm I set to say we're done. I was like, man, I haven't said that much. Yeah. So anyways, so when Hillary's teaching today, that is why we're saying it's okay. Because I look at men, are the men who teach in our church, are they submitted to the authority of the church? Which at this point is just me, although I'm training a couple guys right now to be elders. And then secondly, when women, the same thing. Women, are you submitted to the authority in your life before you go teach here on Sunday? So that means, first, are you submitted to your husband if you're married? And if you're not married, then are you also submitted to the elders of the church as well? So I asked those questions. And I wouldn't let someone teach who I don't think is humble. I have a life characterized by service, and who hasn't submitted to the authorities God has placed in their life. Like, I haven't had a woman who's come up to me and said, hey, I really, really want to teach really bad, and screw all the men. Like, you know, I haven't had that happen yet. No, that could happen one day. And if it was true, I'd sit down and say, no, like, first show me that you're submitted to authority, just like I would to a guy. Like a brother, I'd say, are you submitted to the authority in your life as well? So I know that, so I thought I should be overt and just say that. Because if I don't say it, some of you will be thinking, why is a woman teaching on Sunday? And then I'd say, well, actually, women have been teaching here for a while. But they haven't had 30 minutes to do it. That's all. That's the only difference between what we've been doing and what we're doing today. Now, if that call brings up other questions in your mind, I'm totally open to debating it. Not debate, like friendly debating, like let's talk through scripture and stuff. I have a really good 400-page document about this topic. That would be a good starting place to begin the conversation. That goes through all the different stances and stuff. And for anyone who is the biblical Greek exegetical type person, here's one thing that will pique your interest. And so 2/3 of you just tuned out maybe, but a third of you, you're like, I really want to hear this. Okay, the word for authority in 1 Timothy chapter 2, it's the only place in the New Testament it's used. Period. It's not used in any other scripture in the New Testament. So in order to understand what that word means, you have to look towards extra-biblical sources. And a majority of the time that word is used in extra-biblical sources that were around that time, the word authority means subversive. Like they're being subversive to authority. It's a domineering, like that's the heart behind that word. 2/3 of the time it's used in extra-biblical sources. 1/3 of the time it's not used that way in extra-biblical sources. It's just normal authority. That's what I think was going on in Ephesus. That's why I interpreted that whole thing through that grid. Okay, that's enough. So feel free to email, text me, engage on that. I'm great with that. At this point, that's how we're living in South Hill as a church. So, sister, you want to come up and last week I did spend less, so this week we're going through give more, and that's the topic for today as we go through the Advent conspiracy.
So you did spend less, or you taught spend less? Or you did both?
I did both.
That's great.
Hopefully.
That's great.
I try. I actually like to spend money a lot, especially other people's money.
Oh my gosh, you guys, this week was crazy, probably for most of you. So we had Tuesday night, we had a really awesome time together. Here's like a panorama. It's kind of weird, don't look too closely, there's some really funny things going on in the picture. We had a great time. We figured out the capacity of this area of our house. It's like about 60 people. It was a really great time, and I'm really thankful that a bunch of you guys got to hang out with us, and man, there was some great food, and great company. It was lovely. So we officially had Thanksgiving is over, and we just had Black Friday. Yesterday was Small Business Saturday, and today is Sorry Sunday. I don't know why it's called that, but there you go. Tomorrow's going to be Cyber Monday, so you can do online shopping if you want. Tuesday's
Terrified Tuesday.
Tearful Tuesday? I don't know. Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. I think we made a new thing. Wednesday is Weeping Wednesday, and then Throwback Thursday. Follow Me Friday. I can keep going, but I won't. So we're officially now in the Christmas season. Woo! Westside Community Center, I think, will probably be decorated maybe next week. So we'll have some Christmas lights and fun stuff, and maybe a Christmas tree. So the Christmas season is upon us, officially. Now nobody can complain when they're like, Christmas music is playing again. But you could probably still complain, but it would be unjustified at that point. But I love Christmas. Some of my favorite things about Christmas are the smells of Christmas, like when you set up your Christmas tree, if you have a real one, or if you get those little fake pine-scented icicles that you can hang on your tree. That's pretty fun. So, also apple cinnamon. So if you invite me over, you can just like light an apple cinnamon candle and just be in heaven. Love that. I could smell that all year round. At Macy's, when I used to work there, they had this special little table of scented things. Maybe I shouldn't set this on this table. They had this special table of scented candles, and they're about, like this big-ish. And they're like $30, from Macy's. And they have like Swarovski crystals and stuff. Yeah, fancy. So I would hang out by the table, and I would just smell the candles, and it kind of keep me in the Christmas spirit when everybody's like pushing and shoving. It's like, where's the Christmas ornaments? Can you show me where all the cheap sheets are so I can buy my in-laws a present? So Christmas at Macy's was like this massive thing. They decorated, I think it was the first week in October. It was decked. It was decked out. It was velvet ribbon, it was glitter, it was Christmas music from November 1st. They started Christmas music. And this is where you should really kind of feel sorry for retail people, because they have to listen to Christmas music all day, every day, for 2 full months. Like, they don't stop. Like, it is the same channel with the same songs. And there's this one song that played over and over. It's this obnoxious song by a band called Simple Plan. And I'm not kidding, the lyrics are, it's Christmas and I want everything, I just can't wait. And so that was beautiful holiday spirit music. I was just sitting there kind of raging inside like, this is not Christmas. But I think that Macy's holiday electric bill could have solved world hunger every year. Pretty certain of that. Yeah, lights everywhere is beautiful. But, as we all know, as we have all encountered at some point, there's this side of Christmas that's kind of destructive to our hearts, where there's kind of this frustration and there's people pushing each other out of the way on Black Friday, and there's the shopping and the attitudes of people when they get around a lot of people who are all frustrated because it's Christmas and they go buy stuff for people that I don't even talk to all those other days of the year. There's this crazy attitude that starts to happen where it's like everybody's rushing around and they're like, buy, 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 save, 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 more, and faster until your feet are throbbing from shopping and your head's hurting from being around so many people and your bank account is bleeding out faster than you can replenish it. And there's this just general feeling of anxiety every time you have to go outside because it's cold and people are annoying during the holidays. And then all of a sudden you end up and you're like, okay, great, it's Christmas, I have no time, no energy, I have no money, I'm frustrated, I want to hide, I just want to hide under my covers until mid-January because this is frustrating. But we have to stop and think, like, how did we get here? How did this roller coaster ride of guilt and obligation and frustration and exhaustion and fighting and stampeding and shopping for the perfect gift for your great Uncle Henry's pet pug? You just go, stop! Stop! Why are we even doing this? Why has given taking on such a distorted meaning? Like, it's Christmas. This is a season of giving. But somehow, we as humans do sometimes, most times, turn it into this self-centered season of greed. So, let's address this question. This big, weird question that we forget to ask every holiday. Why do we give gifts? Why do we give gifts on Christmas? What is the history on that? Why do we give gifts? There's a hint.
Because there was the same big hope, because the wise men gave gifts.
Because the wise men gave gifts.
Because God gave Jesus.
God gave Jesus! Ding, ding, ding!
Because they gave the Holy Spirit.
Oh, they gave the Holy Spirit? Oh, we're getting a little too deep theologically already for this. We're not going to
Go on.
Go on. So, and then there's also the story of a wonderful priest. I think he was a priest. He was also called a saint. In the 3rd century, his name was Nicholas, and he's known for being Santa Claus, really. That's what he's most widely known for. But there's also awesome history of him being, like, he came from a really generous family, and his parents died and left him an inheritance, and he ended up giving all of that inheritance away to people, like to people who were poor, to the orphans. And he's known for, like, when the orphans and poor families would leave their shoes outside because they don't want to get dirt in their house. He would leave coins in their shoes as like a little surprise. So that kind of reminds you of like stockings, Santa Claus brings stockings, stuffers, etc. But the most important thing is what Brian and Ryan were talking about was because God gave, and He's a generous giver. That's my first official point. Just lost this little baby. My first point is God is a generous giver. He loves to give. And when we give, that is a really beautiful picture of who he is. He's put that within us, this desire to give of our time, to give of our finances, to give of just who we are to other people relationally. And that is a picture of who he is. But the thing is that when God gave, he reached into our broken humanity with the fulfilled promise of his son. He sent his son as a baby to grow up with us and to walk with us and to feel our pain and to run the gamut of crazy human emotions with us. Jesus came to earth and was on this earth with us to give us a perfect example or template to follow of who God is. God sent his son so that we could see someone live out what he wants us to do, so we can look at Jesus as this template. The highest revelation of God was Jesus. The highest revelation of God is that he is love. And love has to be others-centered. I kind of answered this question just now, but I'm going to ask it to see if you guys can expand on this for me. What does love, because love is not like a bubble that you can just like catch in midair. Like it doesn't exist on its own in its own little world. What does love need to exist? What does love need in order to actually happen? An object to love. Community. Other people. So you said other people? Other people. And it also needs an origin to come from, because love can't just like come out of there and go into other people. So it needs an origin, so it needs someone to embody that love and show it to other people. So it needs an origin and an object. Love originates from God, and because we're made in the image of God, we have this kind of distorted now because of the fall. We have this little reflection of love that we can show. Because God is Trinity, because God is a Trinity, he has the origin, which is himself. And God the Father shows love to God the Son through the Spirit, and the Son reciprocates love back to the Father through the Spirit, and there's this beautiful community. But God the Father doesn't keep all the love for himself. It's other-centered. It has to be poured out. So the love that comes from God, in order for it to be a fuller picture of who God is, we can't keep it to ourselves when we experience God's love. We can't harbor it or hold it in. It has to be poured out. It has to break out of ourselves. So what can we give to God to repay him for the priceless gift that he gave of his son? What could we ever give? Like when I think about that, I think about my heart as this bankrupt, broken soul that's there. Like there's nothing. Like I could give nothing back to God that would be even close to what he gave to us in his son. But all he does ask from us is relationship, which is like a small thing when you think about it, but it's so encompassing. It's everything. But we forget the simplicity of relationship with him. The fact that he wants to be with us. The fact that he wants us to spend time with him. But sometimes when we think about that, we kind of freak out because we're like, oh, I don't have time to like stop and make coffee in the middle of the day and sit down or tea and sit down and like crack open my Bible. I don't have like the time. Everything's going too fast. But then we forget, like, God is with us. Like right now. Like every moment, like when we walk out to our cars, like when we drive home, like when we're brushing our teeth, like when we're in the bathroom, like when we're cooking, when we're running, when we're talking with somebody else, he is with us. And this relationship doesn't have to be this crazy structured thing where we have to have a special time that we set aside in the day to have our quiet time or our devotions with God. Our devotion with God should be all the time. It should be all this time. All the time during the day in awareness, constantly. God, you are with me right now. You are with me at the grocery store. You are with me in this problem I'm going through. It's really awesome. Really, really awesome. If we actually grasp this reality as a people and start to live into that, oh my gosh, our lives would be so much different. If I was able to realize the fact that the God of the universe is with me 24/7 and actually live by that, I would have no fear. I would be like sharing the gospel with everybody all the time, and I would be giving things away all the time because I'd be like, he's with me. He knows what I need. He's there, walking alongside me at every moment. And we just lose that reality so quickly because, the world's like, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. That's what Paul describes in 2 Thessalonians 5:17. When I read that as a slightly younger person, but still really young, it says pray without ceasing. And I was thinking, like as a teenager, I was like thinking, how could that be? Because I still have to eat, and I still have to sleep, and I still have to talk with people at some point. And how does it continue without ceasing? And it's this constant awareness of his presence. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you're just talking out loud to God all the time, because that would be kind of weird to some people. But it means this constant communion with his presence, this constant awareness. God, you're with me, and I can talk to you right now. So, secondly, in order to become better givers this holiday season, we need to invest in our primary relationship, and that is with our Father God. We need to make time to recognize his presence. We need to slow down and be aware that he is with us. Do we ever think about what God wants for Christmas? I know we get into this habit of asking him for things and praising him for things and worshiping him for who he is. But do we ever stop and ask God, what do you want? I heard somebody say this the other day. It was like a worship leader guy on a song, and he said, do you ever stop and ask what God wants? God, is there something in my life this Christmas season that needs to be changed? Is there an alteration in my heart that I need to make? Is there an area in my life that I do not trust you with this Christmas? What do you want from me? That's the question. So, by this relationship with God, that is our filling that we need in order to be better relational givers. My third point is, in order to become better givers, we have to invest in our primary relationship with God. Thirdly, when that happens, we are transformed. We can't help but be transformed when we spend time with God. We are transformed into relational givers. I think I worded it differently here. Our understanding of giving is transformed. 2 Corinthians holds an amazing promise. Somebody or everybody, turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 9. We're going to read a couple verses together out of that. I brought a Bible, so maybe I should open it. Oops. License averted. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6. I read this and I was like, yes, this is exactly, yes. It was kind of accidental almost, but not really. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6. Does anybody want to read it out loud? Ryan Johnson does.
I think 1 second.
That was gracious.
Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Okay, go.
To 8, yes.
Oh, okay. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion. For God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every work.
That's such an amazing, amazing piece when it comes to this topic, because it's God's way of saying there's no chance that you can outgive what I give you. There's no chance that you can give more than I've already given. And when you do give, whether relationally, whether out of your energy or your finances or anything, God is able to make all grace overflow to you. It's a slightly different translation, which was up on screen. So that because you have enough of everything, it's already there. You have enough of everything. In every way, at all times, you will overflow in every good work. Later in this chapter, as a really beautiful cap on this encouragement, he says, "Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift," which is kind of a way of saying there's no way that you could give away more than he's already given to you. It is out of thankfulness in our hearts that we give. That's what he means by not reluctantly or under compulsion. He means not reluctantly, like with a sense of grief or anxiety or regret after we give. Not under compulsion or out of a sense of duty because I'm a Christian and Christians give. Not out of that, but out of a cheerful heart, saying, God, you've given me so much. How much more can I give you? Because of all that you've given to me. So the purpose, last week, purpose of giving more came from last week's topic of spending less. Something I ran into last year that might be funny this year, but it's a real thing. Last year, I was like, hooray, I can spend less on gifts so that I have more for me to save so I can pay bills and stuff. So that's not the reason for spending less. The reason for spending less is so that we can give more to people who are in need. The reason for spending less is so that we can think of better gifts to give to the people that we love, which are gifts of relationship and gifts of our time and our energy and our thought. Instead of going to the store and buying a mindless gift, oh, he'd really like this, I don't even know what it is, but it's cool looking, so that's not the purpose of spending less. The purpose of spending less is to give more. So last week, Scott mentioned Springs Rescue Mission, which is an awesome organization, which I really, really, really love. I've been there quite a few times, and they really do awesome gospel-centered work with people who don't have very much. So, we're going to take, it's already been announced, but we're going to take a special offering on the 18th, so you can save your savings that you saved last week, and hopefully we can give them a generous offering. But here is the tension that we run into. Dun, dun, dun. Eddie Bryan's The Price is Right. Dun. The tension is that we want to be able to give really good and fun gifts to our kids and to our friends, and we want to pick out, fun toys and stuff that they can play with, and we want to see their faces ripping open presents. Actually, I think I'll just get a roll of wrapping paper because Aaliyah just loves ripping paper, and that would be the best gift of all time. So I also want to be a giver to her, and I want to give her fun things that she'll enjoy. I'm thinking I want to give her new toys so she can learn how to do stuff, and I want to give her stuffed animals so she can cuddle them in a blanket, even though she has 15 stuffed animals in her crib. But the tension is that I also desperately want her to be primarily a giver and not a consumer in this culture. It's so hard to think about how to raise children to be givers instead of consumers, because I want her to have fun with stuff, and I want her to have everything she wants, because it brings her a lot of joy, and when she has a lot of joy, I have a lot of joy, and it's really exciting. But also something to keep in mind is that Christmas gifts, meaningless Christmas gifts, kind of like toys and things like that, They start out with this like elation of finally I got this toy I've been waiting for forever. And then the next day, December 26th, you're stepping on Legos with bare feet and they left them out. And that continues through the rest of the year. And you go, wow, why did I do that? Yeah. Do toys bring them the happiness that they really, really want? Or does getting down on their level and like playing with toys that they already have and like creating a new thing, like making a tent and bringing all their stuff in there, or like with your friends going out to coffee or going bowling or taking them to an experience where you guys can connect relationally and talk and be one-on-one? Is that the kind of gift that you would rather give? I'm not talking about spending less so that we can give no gifts. I'm talking about spending less because we are prioritizing gifts that will mean the most for the longest amount of time and will have the greatest impact in people's lives. Let's turn again. Let's open our Bibles up again. 1 John chapter 2. 2 times in one day. Sorry. 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. This is a really, really important principle when it comes to spending less on the stuff. I'll read it because I want to read it. It says, 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. It says, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Because all that is in the world, the desire of the flesh and the desire of the eyes and the arrogance produced by material possessions is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away with all its desires, but the person who does the will of God remains forever. That's awesome. But this doesn't mean that you have to stop buying gifts, because don't love worldly possessions. It means prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. Giving the ones that communicate God is with us by being present with others. So specifically during the season of Advent, we have this awesome opportunity to show this. I made these little things, and you don't have to use these. But I will send them out in the weekly updates, so you have them if you want them. These are relational gift cards, or I like to call them time cards, or Scott also called them presents with a CE instead of TS. This one is for people who are really close to you, like a spouse or a sibling or a offspring. Let's make a warm drink together and talk. These are like little business card size things. So you can staple these maybe to a couple packets of hot chocolate or their favorite drink or something like that. Let's make a warm drink, or if it's Jonah, it's a soda. Just silly. Let's do dinner at our house. This is one you can give to people who are like friends and people that you want to have over and cook a meal for. And then this one says, you and me and a cup of tea. So that would be like a one-on-one meeting. Kind of like a Fight Club if you're in a Fight Club. Kind of like that. So that would be a special way. It says, no business or electronics invited. So I mean, you could bring your phone, but like maybe turn it off or turn it on silent, and just like look in each other's faces and like connect with somebody. Like let them know, man, you're really valuable to me, and this time means something to me, and I want to invest that in our relationship. There is a piece of art that a guy named Antoine Geiger, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but I'm going with it. He wrote this. He made this piece of art called Surfake, which I think is a play on surface, like window surface. So it's Surfake, and it is up there whenever Trevor says to put it up there. It's a random picture that means something. This is kind of like disturbing when you look at it, huh? It's weird. Like I stared at this for a long time going, that's so weird. Like, yeah, but that's kind of the culture we live in now, huh? It's disturbing because it's so real, and we live with that like every day. This is not how it was 15 years ago. It is weird now. It's just weird. How people get pulled out of the moment. They're only halfway present. They're present with their body, but their mind is somewhere else, maybe scrolling on Facebook. So maybe this year, we practice being relationally present by instead of reaching for our phone for no reason or because we're bored, instead we like check in with a friend or like call somebody. That's a terrifying thought to me sometimes because I'm like, I always have to talk to them. And I don't know what to talk about. It'll just be weird, so I'm not going to call them. So instead of mindlessly scrolling on social media, or if you get yourself caught mindlessly scrolling like I do sometimes, figure out how to stop yourselves before it gets too far. And put your phone down and go like connect with somebody, like maybe invite somebody out for coffee or something. So, what are some ways that you guys have experienced in the last few years giving relational, meaningful gifts beyond store-bought items? What are some ideas you guys have that you could share right now? Taking them out on dates, that's beautiful. That's super fun. Anybody else have any ideas? Or have you experienced this from somebody in some way before? Oh, there's one.
One thing that was a blessing to me was I had an older mom over and
Oh, that's awesome.
and then
The scholarship will be
baked me
good.
dinner for
That's a great idea. That's a fantastic idea. Yeah, because moms get busy. And then, yeah, they're like, I don't really need anything, but then you show up with dinner and they're like, thank you so much. So that's really awesome. Those are some great ideas. Giving gifts of replacing responsibilities that would normally be there. So the first point was that God is a relational giver. The second one is we need to invest in our relationship with God as a relational giver so that we can learn how to relationally give better. And the third is our idea of giving, our understanding of giving is transformed by spending time with the Lord and with each other. So the first story of Christmas that we grapple with drives us to give everything we have to this perfect fairy tale story of Santa Claus and making our kids happy and friends happy with fun gifts that they may not need or they may need, but it ends up leaving us empty and hopeless and exhausted, and December 26th is kind of just obliterated from our schedules at that point. The second story also calls us to give everything we have to the story, to the person of Jesus Christ, who leaves us with more than we could ever possibly hope for, or need, or give away. And right now, the scotch is kind of left, but right now we're about to enter into our time of participatory worship, and that's an opportunity to be able to share the gifts that God has given us with Him and with each other. So right now, let's practice being relationally present, and let's think about what God would have us to give to Him and to each other, specifically during this time. Let's pray together.